You sold the house, packed 2 suitcases, moved somewhere your retirement income actually stretches. The rent is lower, the food is cheaper. For the first time in years, you feel free. Then you turn 65, and everything you thought you knew about your healthcare just breaks. Ask Richard. Retired at 63, moved to the Philippines, did his homework on everything. Visas, cost of living, safe neighborhoods. What he didn't research was Medicare. He found out in a hospital, bill in hand, phone call to Medicare. The answer? Sorry, sir, that's not covered. Richard isn't unusual. Richard is the rule. Most retirement abroad videos spend 45 minutes on how cheap the mangoes are and about 3 minutes on the thing most likely to financially destroy you in retirement, healthcare. So today we're skipping the mangoes. We're covering the 5 Medicare traps that blindside American retirees overseas, and the 3-path framework that actually gets you out. Here's the foundation most people never get explained honestly. Medicare was not designed for people living in Thailand or Portugal or the Philippines. It was built around one assumption, that you'd be inside the United States when you needed care. Social Security follows you anywhere. Medicare mostly doesn't. You paid into it your entire working life, and that feels like it should mean something. It does, inside America. Outside America, the rules change completely. Once that lands, every trap we're about to walk through makes complete sense. Let's get into it. Trap 1, the one nobody believes until it happens to them. Okay, so you're living overseas. You wake up one morning and something feels wrong. Chest pain maybe, or a fall, or something that scares you enough to go to the hospital. And you're lying in a hospital bed in, let's say, Medellin, Colombia, which, by the way, has genuinely excellent hospitals. And someone is asking you for your insurance information. So you hand them your Medicare card, and that's when the problem becomes very, very real. For the overwhelming majority of retirees living full-time outside the United States, Medicare does not cover routine or emergency healthcare abroad. There are a small number of narrow exceptions, certain emergency scenarios near the Canadian or Mexican border, some cruise ship situations. But if you are living in Southeast Asia, Southern Europe, Central America, or South America, those exceptions almost certainly don't apply to you. Many people know Medicare has limitations, but they assume limitations means minor paperwork headaches or small copays. They don't assume limitations means the bill is entirely yours, every single dollar. Richard, remember Richard, had a surgery in the Philippines, relatively routine as surgeries go. The care was good, the facility was modern, and the total bill was roughly what a similar procedure would have cost out of pocket at a US hospital with no insurance. Except he had Medicare. He just couldn't use it. That's the trap. Not that Medicare is bad, it's that Medicare was never built for the life you're building. And once that lands, the next question is completely natural. Okay, fine. If Medicare doesn't work overseas, why am I paying for it? Which is exactly where trap number 2 is waiting. Trap number 2. This one can cost you money every single month for the rest of your life. So you've done the math. You're living in Mexico or Portugal or Thailand. Medicare covers almost nothing where you live. Part B costs you over $170 a month. That's over $2,000 a year for something you're essentially not using. And the logical conclusion, the completely reasonable, financially sensible conclusion is, I'll just pause it, or drop it, or deal with it when I come back. I understand that logic, I really do. It makes sense on the surface. Here's why it can destroy you underneath. If you don't enroll in Medicare Part B when you're first eligible, and you don't have what's called a qualifying coverage exception, usually through an employer health plan for people who are still working, the penalty that gets added to your premium doesn't just go away. It can stay with you permanently, for as long as you have Part B. Let me make that concrete for you. The penalty is generally 10% of your premium for every full 12-month period you delayed. So if you delay for 5 years, you could be looking at a 50% increase on your monthly premium. Delay 10 years, and some retirees do, especially ones who genuinely planned to stay abroad forever and then circumstances changed, and you're looking at a 100% increase or more, depending on where future premium levels land. And that increase, it doesn't go away when you've served your time. It stays. You pay it every month for decades. I want you to really feel the weight of that for a second, because the math is not trivial. Let's say your base Part B premium is around $170. A 100% penalty makes that $340 per month. Over 20 years of retirement, that difference compounds into tens of thousands of dollars. Because you made one decision, a completely logical sounding decision, without understanding the long-term consequence. Now, and this is important, there is an exception. If you're still working and covered under a qualifying employer health plan, different rules may apply. Special enrollment periods exist for exactly that situation, which is why the answer isn't never delay. The answer is understand your specific situation before you decide. That means talking to someone who actually specializes in Medicare for expats, not a general financial advisor, not your neighbor who heard something about this once, someone who handles this exact situation regularly. Because the gap between "I heard you can delay if you have other coverage" and "I understand exactly what qualifies and how to document it," that gap is expensive. Now, you understand the penalty, you understand the risk. So what do most people do? They do what feels safe. They just keep paying, which takes us straight into trap 3. Paying for something that doesn't work where you live. All right, I know what you're thinking. Fine, I'll just keep Medicare. Problem solved. Next? If only. Here's the situation a lot of expat retirees actually end up in. They keep paying for Medicare. They're doing the responsible thing. And then they realize, slowly and then all at once, that they're paying for coverage that does almost nothing for the life they're actually living. You're in Portugal. You get a knee replacement. Medicare doesn't pay. You're in the Philippines. You need cardiac care. Medicare doesn't pay. You're in Colombia and you've been there for 3 years, and the only time Medicare has ever been relevant to your life is when you're back in the States visiting your grandkids. You're paying over $2,000 a year for a plan that works great for 2 weeks in December. And when people realize this, the first thing they usually do is look for a patch, something to fill the gap. And the two most common patches people reach for are Medigap and Medicare Advantage. So let's talk about both of them, because this is where a lot of confusion lives. Medigap, the supplemental insurance that covers costs Medicare doesn't, does include emergency foreign travel benefits in some plans. Sounds promising, right? Here's the catch. Those benefits were designed for travelers, for someone who's going on a cruise or visiting a grandchild in Germany and has a heart attack. They were not designed for someone whose primary residence is abroad. The coverage limits are relatively low, the deductibles apply, and using it as your main international health strategy is a little bit like using an umbrella to build a roof. Technically related to the rain problem, not actually a solution. Medicare Advantage plans, the private plans that replace original Medicare, can also include some international emergency coverage. Same issue. These are emergency travel benefits. They are not designed to serve as your comprehensive health insurance for a life lived outside the United States. So now you're in this strange position. You're paying for Medicare because dropping it creates a permanent penalty problem. You're in a country where Medicare doesn't work for your daily healthcare needs. And the add-ons designed to extend Medicare don't really solve the problem either. Which means the real solution, the thing that actually covers you where you live, is private international health insurance. And that's where we need to have an honest conversation about price. Trap 4, the number that shocks almost everyone. This is the trap I see catch people off guard more than almost any other, and I think I know why. When you move abroad, one of the first things you experience is the cost of local medical care. You go to a doctor, you pay out of pocket. It's fine. Maybe $40, maybe $70. You think, this is incredible. Healthcare is just cheap here. Why did I ever stay in the States? And that feeling is real. Routine outpatient care in Thailand, the Philippines, Mexico, Colombia, it genuinely is a fraction of what it costs in America. Cash pay medicine in a lot of these countries is accessible in a way it simply isn't at home. And then you start shopping for comprehensive international health insurance. And the number you see is not $40. For a retiree, let's say someone in their late 60s, comprehensive international health insurance with reasonable coverage limits and a manageable deductible can run several $100s a month, sometimes significantly more, depending on your age, your health history, whether you want US coverage included, which country you're living in, and the specific plan structure. And people stare at that number and think, that can't be right. But it is right. Because what you're buying isn't coverage for your $40 doctor visits. You're buying coverage for the thing that costs $40,000. The surgery, the hospitalization, the cancer diagnosis, the stroke, the event that goes from medical situation to financial catastrophe without comprehensive coverage. The cheap doctor visit is not the problem. The 6-week hospital stay is the problem. And here's where it gets more complicated. Not all international health plans are built the same. Some have deductibles that make them effectively useless for anything except the most catastrophic events. Some have annual coverage limits that sound impressive until you're facing a serious diagnosis and realize they don't go nearly far enough. Some have waiting periods for pre-existing conditions that exclude the exact conditions most likely to affect older adults. Some exclude the United States entirely, which matters enormously if you plan to ever come back. The cheapest plan available is almost never the right plan. I know that sounds like a sales pitch, and I'm not here to sell you anything. It's just true. Buying the cheapest international health insurance is a little like buying the cheapest parachute. Technically, you have one, but the moment you actually need it is not the moment you want to find out what corners were cut. And here's something else that people miss. Your strategy needs to match your destination. What works in Thailand doesn't automatically work in Portugal. Portugal has a national health system that legal residents can often access. That changes the math. Thailand has world-class private hospitals in Bangkok and Chiang Mai, but a different picture in rural areas. Mexico is enormous, and healthcare quality varies dramatically between cities. The Philippines has excellent hospitals in Manila and Cebu, but limited options elsewhere. Your healthcare plan needs to be built around the specific country, the specific city, and the specific risks you're actually facing. Not copied from a Reddit thread, not borrowed from someone who lives in a completely different place. And after all this, after understanding that Medicare doesn't work, that the penalties are real, that private insurance is expensive, that you need a real strategy, some people land on a plan that sounds brilliantly simple. If anything serious happens, I'll just fly home. Trap 5. The plan that sounds logical and isn't. I get it. I really do. The fly home plan feels like a clean solution to a complicated problem. You're not abandoning Medicare. You're not fully committing to international insurance. You're just keeping your options open, using the best of both worlds. And in some situations, some very specific, very limited situations, it's genuinely fine. Minor things, planned procedures, a surgery you can schedule 6 weeks out. Sure, get on a plane, use your Medicare, come back. But let's talk about how medical emergencies actually work in the real world. You don't get a calendar invite. You don't get 2 weeks notice. A heart attack doesn't check your flight schedule. A severe stroke doesn't ask if now is a good time. A serious accident doesn't wait until you can book a business class seat. When something serious happens, and in retirement, something serious eventually happens to most of us, the scenario is often, you are in a hospital, right now, today. And the question isn't, should I fly home? The question is, can I fly home? Because if you're post-surgery, or if you're on a ventilator, or if you're in the middle of a cardiac event, you may not be medically stable enough to fly anywhere. And the care you need is happening right where you are, whether you planned for it or not. And then there's the evacuation question. Let's say you're in a more rural area, or in a country where the local medical infrastructure isn't equipped for your specific situation. Medical evacuation, flying you to a better facility, or flying you home, can cost anywhere from $20,000 to over $100,000, depending on distance, the equipment needed, and the medical staff required in transit. Medicare generally does not cover medical evacuation. Travel insurance sometimes does, with limitations. And if you don't have the right coverage in place before the emergency, you're negotiating those bills from a hospital bed. And here's the part of this trap that connects back to trap 2 in a way that really matters. If you delayed Medicare enrollment, if you went with the fly home plan and also figured you'd just re-enroll when you came back, returning to the United States doesn't instantly fix your coverage situation. There are enrollment windows, there are waiting periods, there are penalty calculations. You can't just land at JFK and activate Medicare from the Uber. The healthcare strategy that protects you is the one you build before you need it. Not during, not after, before. Because the thing that makes all 5 of these traps genuinely dangerous isn't that they're complicated, it's that they feel manageable, right up until the moment they aren't. So, 5 traps, all connected, all feeding into each other. Medicare doesn't cover you, dropping it costs you later, keeping it feels wasteful, international insurance stings, and the fly home plan falls apart when you actually need it. So what do? That's exactly what we're getting into right now. The 3 paths forward, and how to choose the one that's actually right for you. Okay, we've been honest about the traps. Now let's be honest about the solutions. There is no perfect answer. Anyone who tells you there's a clean, one-size-fits-all fix to the Medicare abroad problem is either uninformed or selling something. The right answer depends on your age, your health, your financial situation, how committed you are to staying abroad, whether you have ties that might pull you back to the States, and a dozen other factors that are unique to you. But there are 3 general paths that cover the vast majority of situations, and I want to walk through each one honestly, including the trade-offs, so you can actually think about which one fits your life. Path 1. Keep the bridge. This path is for people who haven't fully closed the door on returning to the United States. Maybe your kids are there. Maybe you'd want to come back if your health got complicated enough. The strategy is simple. Enroll in Medicare when eligible, maintain Part B, and supplement with local or international coverage abroad. Yes, you're paying for 2 systems. That's the trade-off. But what you're buying isn't just healthcare. You're buying flexibility, the ability to come back at any point without facing penalty premiums for the rest of your life. Think of it as keeping a bridge intact. Path 2. Full overseas commitment. This path is for people who are genuinely done with the United States as a place to live. Not ambivalent, actually committed. Permanent residency, real community ties, a long-term plan in one specific country. Build your entire healthcare strategy around where you actually live. Understand the local public system if you're eligible. Find the right international private plan for your situation. Know which hospitals near you handle serious care. The trade-off is real. If circumstances change, reversing course is expensive. This path rewards genuine commitment. If there's any real uncertainty about whether you're truly staying permanently, this is the riskiest option. Path 3. The dual country approach. This one is for people who genuinely split their time. 6 months abroad, 6 months back in the States. If that's you, maintaining Medicare actually makes practical sense, because you're in the United States regularly enough to use it. Schedule major procedures when you're back. Use Medicare for what it was designed to do. While abroad, supplement with travel or international coverage for the gaps. The trade-off is complexity. You're managing ties to 2 countries simultaneously. But for the right person, someone already living this way, It's the path that delivers the most flexibility with the fewest painful long-term compromises. I want to be honest with you about one more thing before we wrap up, because I think it matters. None of these paths include, don't worry about it. None of them include, figure it out later. None of them include, I'll just deal with it if something happens. Those aren't paths. Those are traps. And honestly, they're the most expensive ones on this entire list. Here's what I've noticed talking to retirees who end up in genuinely difficult situations. Facing massive bills, scrambling for coverage, paying penalty premiums deep into their 80s. Almost none of them made bad decisions. They made no decision. They assumed the system would sort itself out. They told themselves they'd research it properly when the time came. And then the time came and went, and suddenly they're in a hospital bed in Cebu or Lisbon or Medellin, just like Richard, and the research they meant to do isn't helping them anymore. The time to think about your Medicare strategy is before you move. If you've already moved, the time is right now, today, not next month, not after the next video. Because here's the truth that cuts through everything we've covered. The savings from cheaper rent and cheaper food, and they are real savings, meaningful savings, can disappear completely in a single hospitalization without the right coverage in place. One event, one bill, gone. The healthcare decisions you make at 65 cast a very long shadow. Make them deliberately, make them with real information, and make them before you need them, not after.